What's up? What's up? What's up? You are listening to her in the huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. It is somewhat of a Victory Monday. I'm not kind of sure what type of Victory Monday you want to call it. There was a victory that took place. The Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Toronto Raptors last night at Rocket Mortgage Arena. So the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to salvage the weekend. But hey, it's her in the huddle time, and I am here with Cleveland Kate. What's up, Cleveland Kate? How you doing today?
I'm okay. I'm mentally recovering, emotionally recovering from this rough weekend. I understand you're trying to show a little bit of positivity, but we don't get a Victory Monday for the Cavaliers. They play too many days of the week for them to get a Victory Monday. And I actually saw people on the Twitter asking this weekend who gets fired first, Ryan Day or JB. We need to talk about that. People are not happy with JB right now, and I kind of don't understand it. That team hadn't been healthy. We'll get to basketball, but it was a rough weekend. I probably put too much pressure on the Browns to lift me up after Saturday's loss. That's not usually their role. Usually I win on Saturday with my Buckeyes so that I can get through terrible football on Sunday. And I might have put a little too much, all of Buckeye Nation, frankly, might have put a little too much pressure on the Browns to bring us a win on Sunday and give us that little emotional lift. So it was a rough weekend, but it's Monday. It's a new week. It's a new day, hitting the ground running. We got this. Let's go.
Sapphire, how are you today?
Well, first of all, chicka. And then secondly, I'll vote for Kate in 2024 because I'm disgusted. My whole day was Sour Patch. The people that I've talked to all day were Sour Patches. Like, I feel like someone hit me over the head with a 2x4. Not necessarily about the players, but again, if you remember what I said last week about the Browns game, was Sean Payton gonna outcoach Stefanski? Was Stefanski gonna get too cute? Woosah. That's how I'm feeling.
Willie, how you doing today, sir? What's going on with you?
Sapphire, let me know. Just text me when he's done talking. I can't.
Hey, can I get you to look at me in the eyes? I don't understand. You act like
I'm looking at you.
I'm looking at you, Willie.
Kate.
I want you to have your moment. I'm looking at you in your eyes.
Well, the Raiders lost to the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday after being up 14-0, and then allowing 31 straight to that team that only had, I want to say had been outscored in the second half, 3 consecutive games. And then the Raiders come calling, and they remind us that the Chiefs are who we thought they were. And they let a wide receiver catch for more than 100 yards for the first time in I don't know how long. That happened on Sunday, right? And then of course the Browns. I feel bad for you guys, man, because it's like if it wasn't for bad luck, you would have no luck at all with that.
Are you quoting country songs, Willie?
Huh?
Are you quoting country songs and hee-haw right now?
Is that a quote from a country song?
From hee-haw, for those people listening that are over the age of 45.
I know what hee-haw
Gloom,
is.
despair, and agony on me. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all.
Well, that happens a lot in the hood too, not just on hee-haw. And then,
which is hilarious because I heard a comedian the other day talking about the similarities between Jeff Foxworthy was talking. He had that whole series he did about, are you a redneck or you're a redneck if? And one of the Wayans brothers said, you can do the same thing with ghetto. You know you're ghetto if you got a TV that works sitting on top of a TV that doesn't. Like,
yeah, we've been there.
It'll go both ways. There's a lot more commonalities than I guess we thought.
Well, that's why I think people from the hood and rednecks should just be one race.
They're one type of flavor. I'm saying that.
and speaking of flavor, there was this thing that happened on Saturday in a town called Ann Arbor, Michigan. I think you guys may have heard of it. The
Dang,
town,
if
I
I
think it's
cut Willie's mic, I got to cut
Absolutely.
everybody's mic because y'all all connected.
Didn't you
to the
think he
same
played?
one.
Didn't you think he called that game scared? Willie, honestly, from a coaching, a play calling perspective, did he call that game like he was scared, or is it just me?
Ryan Day?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about him right now. He's not worthy of the conversation at this moment in time.
Oh, well, elevate my mind. Who's worthy of it? Because to me, that's where the buck starts and stops.
Well, I gotta finish basking in my glorious, victorious Saturday of what happened.
Can we move on to NFL football right now?
No, because you asked me how I was doing, and I'm not finished explaining how I'm doing. If this is the case, you should have never sent me the link.
Come on, Willie, bring it. Let's go.
I noticed how you got on blue and yellow today too.
It's a navy. It's navy.
I took note of the color scheme though.
It's navy. But see, that right there just shows how sensitive you are. And I'm not saying I did that on purpose, for a purpose, or even with a purpose. But the purpose of this is to tell you guys that Michigan is going to its third straight Final Four.
Yeah.
And Ohio State is not going to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for one, watched the entire game. I was really impressed. Well, let me tell me if I'm getting ahead of the show, Rachel.
You are.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm doing fantastic. How are y'all doing?
All right. We're going to get back
You
to
said
that.
you were impressed with what? I'm very intrigued with what is about to come out of your mouth. Please stop teasing us.
I got to let Rachel do her thing, though. And Rachel got on glasses. I've never seen that before.
I do wear glasses.
Okay.
My vision.
Here we go.
Worse.
We got 53 minutes left, Willie. Let's hear it. Come on, bring it.
I got to get the okay from the her in the huddle.
Sapphire, do you really want to hear what he has to say now?
Because honestly, listen, I saw what Mo Claret tweeted. Like, I'm hearing a lot of stuff, and I know that I am subjective. So in this moment, yes, I would like to hear what Willie has to say, if he'll say it.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if CJ Stroud would have come back for another year. He's the truth. He is worthy of a top 5 pick. And whatever NFL team gets him next year, they won't miss. They will not miss. Unfortunately, your quarterback reminds me a lot of Kirk Herbstreit.
Okay.
He's decent. He's okay. But I talked about this with you guys a few weeks ago about this not being this Ohio State University team felt different, and it felt different because of the quarterback. And I know what he did against Notre Dame was pretty cool and all that, and the uproar about Michigan and the cheating scandal and all the cheating allegations and all that, and the fact that Michigan hadn't really played anybody the entire season up until Penn State.
Okay.
Well, all of that can be just thrown away now, because at the end of the day, the players still got to go out there on the field and play.
True.
The coaches still have to coach. And the bottom line is the quarterback from Ohio State was not nearly as good as the quarterback from Michigan on this day.
I'm going to defend that statement.
What statement is that? Who is that? Who are
so
you?
Here's what I want to know about that. Willie, check this out. Here's what I want to know about it. Again, I'm looking at games from a different lens than you, much more than qualified people. Cleveland Kate, you, Rachel. What I saw is JJ McCarthy have all day and a week to throw the ball. I saw phenomenal protection. But on the other side of the ball, hello, Ryan Day. I saw McCord with defense in his face literally the whole game.
Well, okay, but to his defense and him being McCord, I mean, there are at least 2 NFL players on the Michigan defensive line. I mean, we know that. There are going to be at least 2 NFL players that's on that team that's going to be playing on Sundays one day.
Okay.
That is the strength of Michigan's team, the front 7. We know that.
Okay.
So
again, help me understand. If you're the coach, Willie, and you know this, how different is your play calling going to be specifically for Kyle McCord, who you know, because you know what he is. How do you not make the adjustment to account for that?
You know, that's why people like Frank Reich and Josh McDaniels and others that are going to get fired this year are now not working. Jimbo Fisher, all the rest, because they don't. And it's interesting that you asked me about adjustments because we all know what happened with McDaniels in Vegas and how, looking like this, every coach from the Bill Belichick coaching tree that has gone on to be head coaches elsewhere have failed. They have failed because you cannot take the Patriot way everywhere. So you have to learn how to adjust. And that's why my mom's texting me. It's like, what's wrong with your phone? I'm like, I don't know what's going on with my phone. But anyway, you cannot just, this is the thing. This is what I have
Man, you know what?
I
want you to finish a salient point.
Just finish one.
I got a problem with people who say, well, this is just who I am. Well, and that includes coaches and players alike.
Willie, Chris Styles wants to back up your point.
Oh, okay.
What is his point? I'm still trying to hear him make a point.
Check. No. What he's trying to say is like, so when you coach him, you in college football, this is not the pros. In college football, it is levels and tiers of players of development, right? So you got to understand that Ohio State offensive line is not the greatest offensive line. They're good to get through the Big Ten. When we talk about top tier programs, and whether you like it or not, Michigan is a top tier program right now. The last 3-4 years, including with Georgia, the Alabamas, the Oregons right now, the Washington right now. We're talking about those teams right now. Top tier, you can't make an adjustment if that D line is just better than the offensive line. There's no adjustments you can make. You could bring in more pass blocking, but then that limits you what you do on offense then. So that means that's why Marvin Harrison was doubled. He said it. I was doubled in ways I've never seen before, right? Because you don't have everybody going out. You're not going 5 wide. You're going 3 wide.
But here's my point, Kate. Here's my point.
I'm sorry, I got to cut in here. Hold on. I get what you're saying, Chris, but let's talk about emerging stats. Travion only averaged 3.2 yards per rush. Chip consistently 6+. If your pass game is not working, okay, when I talk about an adjustment, I'm just talking about let's go ground and pound. Let's see how those 2 defenders and the rest of them stack up. Let's talk about moving the quarterback. And that
when they ran him in the middle, he found seams and he got 4 or 5 yards in the middle. And then they'd run him to the outside. That's my kind of quit going to the outside. Stay in the middle.
They did it for one drive, and then it got stopped. You got to understand, like, it's game of field position. They did it for one drive. I see that drive. It was a great drive. Like, oh, wow. They hurry up. It was a hurry-up offense, and they ran it real quick.
So what's left after that? What if they shut the run down? What's left after that?
And they weren't double teaming Marvin Harrison all day. They didn't have 2 guys on him. They had a guy on him and a guy back. So he can get 20 yards. He can get 10.
It's bracket coverage.
Chipping away at that.
It's bracket.
Don't forget about Cade Stover.
It may not be a true double team, but it's bracket coverage where he can get to the person that's the bracketer can either get to Harrison or get back to where he was in a timely fashion. But here's my point, Kate. You asked me what my point was. My point is this, is that all year we have known that this Ohio State team is not nearly as talented that was of a few years ago. And that's the big thing right there. So when you have an absence, or not necessarily an absence, but when you have a degree or 2, when you're less talented than the team that you're going against, and it's etched all over the place, the great coaches like the Harbaughs are going to understand where to exploit all of that. And then you have people like Ryan Day, for whatever reason, doesn't know how to make that adjustment when the team that you have is not nearly as good as the team that you're going against. That's my point.
So that's 2 points.
Yeah.
That's 2
But
points. That my coach isn't good enough to make adjustments, but I can't make adjustments because my team isn't talented enough to adjust.
So here's the thing.
I don't disagree that there have been far more talented Buckeye teams in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sad that we're not in the top 4 because we cannot compete with Georgia. I don't know who wants to even try to compete with Georgia. Georgia all by itself. What Florida State did, losing the people they lost and still won and still beat Florida this week. God bless them. More power to them. I don't know that talent is what cost us that game on Saturday because that was 24-30. When you look at the points Michigan has put up all year and the things that they've done all year, if their talent is really as far above us as you say, that score should have been a lot different. The defense let us down on Sunday. It's our defense that isn't as talented as it has been since Chase Young left. And I would argue that's a recruiting problem because you have been so focused on offense, on quarterback, on having this, we can put up 50 points whenever we want, that you have super recruited offensive players. They have gone on to the NFL. They have done very well. And now you're struggling to recruit defensive players because that's what these kids want. They want to play and they want to go to the NFL. So they're going to go to a program that's going to give them the best shot at going. If you're a tight end in high school, where are you going to college? Iowa,
Georgia.
all day, every day. That's
Georgia.
where you're trying to go. Tight end, you in Iowa. That's where you're going to go. Defensive players are hitting Michigan and some of these other schools because they're sending players to the NFL. And until Ohio State does a better job recruiting defense, we're going to keep having this problem. The defense was my issue this weekend, not the offense. And the saddest thing for me about this weekend is that was the last time I'm going to see Marvin Harrison play in a Buckeye uniform and probably an Ohio uniform. I don't know that the Browns have any chance of getting up into the top 5 with everything they spent to get Deshaun Watson. They don't have any chance of getting into the top 5 to try to get a hold of Harrison. So I'm going to root for him wherever he goes. Hope to God it's not Pittsburgh or Baltimore, but
it won't be either one of those teams because those teams don't.
And if he could have had a really good game Saturday, he would have legitimately been in the Heisman conversation. But I think that Saturday game took him out. Even though there wasn't nothing he could have done different, the performance of the team overall, I think, has kicked him out of the Heisman conversation. And we're back to those 2 quarterbacks that everybody likes that I don't think are all that great.
Yeah, I tell you what. I tell you what. Kate is right. I had a talk with a couple of Ohio State guys who former players, and I said that what they're missing is people don't understand. Where Urban Meyer, everybody think it was Urban Meyer. It was his offense. It was never his offense. It was always his defense that made him really, really great. So at every level of that defense, the defensive line, the linebacker, or the cornerback, he had a top-tier player. Ohio State has not had a top-tier player in the last 3 years at that position. And as far as Ryan Day with the offense, again, when we go back to Urban Meyer, he ran the spread, but the read zone was a power-based type offense he ran. So he had a really good running back. He had back there. His quarterbacks, if you think about his quarterbacks, were kind of average, right? They were great college quarterbacks, but we talk about his pro looks, they were average. They weren't great. So we talk J.T. Bray was probably arguably statistically one of the best quarterbacks come out of Ohio State, statistically, right? We talk about Florida, we talk about Tim Tebow, the one, everything. That guy, the type of players he had, but his defense was so good. His run game was so good that it was hard to beat that team. But what he did, Ryan Day, like he said, like Kate said, want to get too cute and pretty. I had, a good quarterback in Fields. I'm gonna run it up, right? I see Dave, I'm gonna run it up. And in that terms of running it up, you forgot about this game of defense. Why is Georgia so good? Because it's their defense. What the past Alabama teams were so good because of their defense, right? And I think that's one of the issues. It is a recruiting problem. It is a recruiting issue because you have a top. That 2021 class right now is 0-3 against Michigan. They were number two. It was number 2 in the nation ranking class. That tells me the development in that program is not as good as it was in the past. Because we're talking about Michigan 2021 class was ranked far below Ohio State's with a bunch of 3 stars compared to 15 5 stars.
So what does that mean?
25 stars. Stars don't mean anything and when you come to the end of the day because it's all about development. But in the grand scheme of optics,
that's the word I was looking for. Development.
Yeah. But optics, development of Michigan players, they developed those 2-3 stars that at the time you start playing, they play like they're their top players. And Ohio State is missing development at certain positions.
Now, let me ask you this, too, because you're a Michigan guy. Are these players staying longer? Are they staying to their senior year, getting better? Like you see in the NCAA tournament where the players who have stayed for 3-4 years have been better than one and dones and
it's the same amount.
upsets.
It's the same amount of time they all staying. People live their junior year. So because college, you lose, unless you redshirting, you're staying 3 years.
At a minimum.
At minimum 3 years. It's just the development. It comes out strength, conditioning, development,
better coaches.
You're training, all that comes together. You're training. All that comes together. And you can see with Ohio State that you have the best of the best, but when you play against those teams that is an equal talent, you can see some lack. I think Ohio State got a really good talent. I think they still one of the top 14 in the country.
No way.
I still think so.
No,
I still think so.
No, you don't get to say that after a loss like this, dude.
I really do still think so. I really do. I just think
who are you gonna put?
Two lost to 3, Willie. Two lost to 3.
Only reason why I can say that, Willie,
unranked.
Only I can say that because it's a rival. It's a rival game.
Two lost to 3.
But who are you gonna put in? Who? Okay.
But can we
a rival game?
Florida State out and put them back in? Except I don't want to have to deal with it. It is what it is. Right? It doesn't matter.
Not the records. I'm talking about a team. If I look at the teams as a team, Ohio State is one of the top 4 teams.
So that means that they should be in the college football playoff then.
Can we argue that Michigan probably should have been ranked number 2 as opposed to Ohio State?
I think Michigan should be ranked number 1, honestly.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say that because of Georgia. Georgia has not lost a game in 3 years.
Well, I'm going by this year though. I'm just specifically this year.
But in that 3 years includes this year, and they have beaten more ranked opponents than Michigan has.
We talk about this year.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this year too. But and not only that, they play in a way.
Ole Miss don't count.
I mean, but they play in a way. But you can't say it doesn't. You can't make a statement like that and then say, well, it doesn't
because
count.
It's SEC bias. Because we see when the SEC gets into their bowl games, they don't win their bowl games. They don't. SEC are very top heavy, very top heavy.
But you still can't make a statement like that by saying, well, it's just Ole Miss.
Because Ole Miss is not good. Ole Miss is not that good. When the SEC team, they be an SEC team that is ranked, they understand at the end of the year that SEC team be 5 and 6. They would say, well, they be the good team is the SEC, but they're 5 and 6 still.
So you're saying that you should.
It's still 5 and 6.
You're saying Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and who will be your 4th team?
You go Washington, or maybe Florida State.
I would go Florida State.
Florida State lost their quarterback.
I don't say people keep saying that.
That's part of the team. The aspects of it.
Years ago, Ohio State lost their quarterback, and Cornell had to come out and look at how we did.
This is not the NFL.
I'm saying though, but
this is not the NFL. This is
you're saying the team though, but they lost their best player on the team.
If Texas lose their top quarterback, they got a number 1 ranked quarterback right behind them. If Alabama had quarterback issues this year, and they're still winning the game,
and they have the greatest coach ever.
No,
they have the greatest coach ever.
They got top tier players. These guys are top tier.
They have the greatest coach of all time in college.
It doesn't matter. You can't be that greatest coach without talent.
Rachel, don't we need a commercial break?
6 more minutes. We'll take it as 6:30.
We're talking about the top teams. I'm talking about this year.
I'm more interested in what's going to happen next year with the 12-team playoff and with the way the new system is going to be. This wouldn't have been Ohio State's year. I'm fine with us not being in the top 4. It doesn't bother me at all. I got my Christmas tree up now. I'll get a bowl game in. I'll take my tree down in January. It'll be all right. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I think one of the
saddest parts of all of this is that Ryan Day chose Kyle McCord over J.J. McCarthy's recruitment. He chose Kyle McCord over J.J. McCarthy. I think that's the saddest part out of all of this.
I don't think it is because JJ McCarthy isn't that good. He's a very good game manager, but they run the ball really well. He doesn't throw over 20 yards because he doesn't have to, because they run the ball well. This was Kyle McCord's. He may be a junior, but this was his first year of starting the entire season. I have faith that we know how to develop offense. We may not know how to develop defense, but Ohio State can develop offense. And I have all the faith that they will work with him this offseason, that he will come up better, stronger, faster next year. I mean, he was still 65% or better on completion percentage across the season. He was still having a QBR of 144. Across the season, he had 5 times more touchdowns and interceptions. Like, over the course of the season, his numbers are all right. Saturday's numbers were not good. That's some offensive line issues. You need to fix that, and he needs to learn a few things because that was the first real test for him all year. And I know you can only play the games that are on your schedule, and it's not their fault that the schedule is what it is. But they will work with him this summer, and he will come back, and he will be fine next year. Hopefully, they'll get me some multiple star recruits on defense and some coaches that can coach him up and get these defensive issues fixed.
Yeah,
I called this after the
long.
first game.
Yeah, pressure
After the
all
first
day
game.
long.
Yeah.
Did I not call this after the first game on Facebook that we wouldn't beat Michigan this year?
You did call it.
Thank you.
They got Aaron Nolan coming next year. McCord lucky if he even gets the start next year.
Right.
They got the kid coming in that is pretty way more athletic, have a better QB. So
Yeah, but he's small. He might
Aaron
need
Nolan
a year
is
to
not-
sit and put a little weight on.
no, in college, you guys think in college is a pro. It is not. You could go in college with a 5'10" quarterback and win games. You've got the talent to play. You got the talent to
He
play.
don't weigh enough. I'll put it that
He's-
way. He don't weigh enough. He gonna get broken.
Not in college. You're not going to get broken. Your first 5 games are easy.
Well, there is that. I don't know. All right.
Aaron Nolan, y'all got Aaron Nolan coming in, but listen, who wins it all?
Well, I hate to say this.
I
I
don't
hate
think anyone
Georgia.
can argue that.
I hate Georgia, but I probably would. I don't want to see Georgia win 3 times in a row.
I
Don't
don't
let
mind
Bama get in there.
I really don't.
They want Bama in there. They really want Bama in there.
Don't let them get in there. That man, Milrow, is a stud.
Who wins, Willie?
I like Michigan and Georgia in the finals.
Who wins that?
Georgia will win it. Georgia will win it. They have Georgia's offense is way better than Michigan's offense. They way more dynamic. They got way more playmakers. The defenses might be a little even, but I don't see Michigan really being able to deal with the team that has done what they've done over the last 3 years and not having lost a game. And they essentially returned just about everybody that they had. This is a classic example of reloading and not resetting, or whatever the other word is, whatever.
Rebuilding.
This is a reload. I mean, they keep one in the chamber for real. You still got me hung up on Ohio State being one of the best 4 teams in the nation.
I think so.
I just don't. There's
I
no
agree
way.
with you on that. I agree with
There's
you on
no
that.
way I can. There's no way that can be the case.
Who's
Yeah.
better? Who's better than them outside of Michigan? Outside of Michigan and Georgia, who's better than them? Well,
Man,
honestly, who's better than them?
I will give Alabama. I would give Oregon. I would give Washington. Oh yeah,
Washington better than Ohio State.
yeah, I would.
No,
I would. I've seen Washington play more times than any other team in the country, with the exception of Michigan. I saw what they did to Oregon, and Oregon is really, really, really good. And that game on Friday for the Pac-12 championship, it's going to be a bloodbath. And it's just a shame that the Pac-12 has come to this, because they've given us some exciting games all year round, and now all those teams are going to the Big Ten or wherever they're going. Ohio State, man, I mean, this is not your older cousin's Ohio State team. They're not the best team in the Big Ten anymore. They can't. They just can't go out there and say, you know what, we got Justin Fields and we got Chris Olave and we got Garrett Wilson and whoever else you want to throw back there. You could throw in there Maurice Claret. This is not that team.
No,
Yep.
it's not.
I agree with Willie. I agree with them.
But they recruit those players because I'm heavy into recruiting. That's why I know who they got with all these teams getting. They have those top guys. They have them. Now, it's the development part. Are they developing fast? Now Marvin Harrison is a unicorn.
So are you talking about potential team, or are you talking about what we?
I just think talent. I'm talking about talent for talent. They have it.
But what good is having that if it's not all put together? Because if we think about it. Think about all of the players that play for Ohio State that are in the NFL that were on the same team and never won a national championship.
Preach.
Yeah. I'm just talking about this year.
With Urban Meyer, or was it Urban? No, not as. Urban Meyer was there once, and then now with Day. But if you have all of these so-called talented players that wind up playing in the NFL on Sundays and Mondays and sometimes Thursdays, you should have way more top 4 finishes or college football playoff appearances than you do. So that talent doesn't mean jack.
Listen, I'm just looking at the schedule from this year. Georgia had 2 games against a ranked opponent. Ohio State had 2 games against ranked opponent. Michigan had 1, and it was the Buckeyes.
2.
I don't see who.
Michigan had 2. Penn State.
Who?
Penn State.
Penn State. Are they still ranked?
Yeah. Well,
I guess they are.
They were ranked when they played.
Ohio State only had 1.
So they got
against Notre Dame. Who's not a great team?
Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan.
But then what did Notre Dame turn out? I mean, look at it from that standpoint. What did Notre Dame turn out to be?
But not a great team. Okay team. What are they, 10-2?
Well, I think after this, Ohio State will do some reevaluation of possibly they coach and they program and their recruiting and things like that. Because, like you guys said, right now Ohio State isn't the best team in the Big Ten and hasn't been the past 3 seasons. So, I wouldn't say this is a crisis, but Michigan has caught up. One of the things that we knew that they were going to, and we kind of saw it coming. But I think that there will be not necessarily some moves, but they'll do some better recruiting and also take a look at the development of their players, like Chris said, because people lose their jobs over stuff like this. Ask John Cooper, and Urban Meyer went 7-0 against this team, and Jim Tressel I think probably lost to Michigan 1 time. So on Ryan Day, I don't know. His days might be numbering. What is he, like 50-7 or something like that? But that's just not good enough for.
He's 40-0 against the Big Ten. Aside from Michigan, he's 40-0. I don't know how you get rid of him when he's 40-0. It'll be interesting next year because of the way they're changing the playoff system, where there's actually going to be 12 teams you can play in, you can earn, you can prove that you belong in those playoffs. It'll be a lot more interesting next year. I just think it's way too early to look at getting rid of him because he lost to Michigan 3 times. Now, 4 times, we may have to have a conversation.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's like you said, Kate. He needs to recruit better players because Michigan is coming out and punching them in the face for the last 3 years. I mean, this team is as physical, and it was very unfortunate that the right guard went out with the leg injury for Michigan. But that team, they come into the game and they got boxing gloves on whenever they play Ohio State.
Is that a culture thing right now? Is that a culture issue?
Well, I think that, Michigan is still mad about Ryan Day saying that they're going to hang 100 on them. So I think that probably still take issue with their statement. And the coach, they say supposedly that the rivalry between Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh is something manufactured, but I really think that they really don't like each other as well. So I
cannot believe we're lowering our standards. I cannot believe we are lowering our standards. We know whoever is at the helm of that ship must beat Michigan. Anything less is unacceptable. But maybe I'm on a boat in the middle of the ocean all by myself. Ryan Day has had 3 opportunities. Thank you for your contribution. We're moving on.
Because it's a failure.
But I'm asking this because next year go to 12 playoff, and I'm just saying that as a scope of college football where it's going to. just because you lose that game, which every rival game is losing its measure because it's becoming big money in college football, and making the playoffs and going and winning the national championship should always trump over a rival game. And that, at the end of the day, is that money. That's what it should be. I think that's what college football and everybody else is looking at. Because we sacrificing the rival game. You're putting in another 13 teams in the Big Ten. It feels like. So do you fire that coach because of this one game, but he can win you 2 national championships?
It's not one game. It's 3 games over 3 years. I mean, this is the assignment. This is it. Anything less is unacceptable for this Buckeyes fan. Now, give him grace, bring him back, whatever.
That was Woody Hayes' days. We talk about.
Listen, I was down with Woody Hayes. I love that arm thing he did at Clemson. Love it. I'm just saying, it's the history, it's the culture that you create. For me, as a Buckeyes fan, Ryan Day has had 3 opportunities to show that he's capable of executing his role to expectation. He hasn't done that. Seriously, give him his money. It's time to move on. That's how I'm feeling.
So if they lose to Michigan next year, but he wins the national championship, you still want to fire him?
As long as I'm on the planet, Chris, first of all, he doesn't have a next year versus Michigan. But yes, done. That's it. You look, these former players that are tweeting, you got family and friends of players talking about it. This is the expectation. If you're the head coach of Ohio State University, you win that game. He hasn't done it for 3 consecutive years. We're paper champions.
Listen but some of it goes back to what Chris was bringing up about culture. I just ran through the entire roster for the Michigan Wolverines. Okay. They have 8 players from Ohio. How I can't keep my Ohio players in Ohio?
Oh,
that's the biggest number I can remember ever looking at of players that we let go to Michigan because they've been beating the Buckeyes. These kids today are all about getting into the NFL. They don't understand the old school rivalry. It doesn't mean that to them. When Jim Tressel said we have 300 blah, blah, blah days until we fit, that stuff isn't important to these players like it was to their uncles and their dads and their grandparents. And so you got to recruit them by convincing them that if you come play at Ohio State, we're going to get you to the NFL.
Okay.
We're your best chance to get to the NFL. And depending on their position, it's not. So the rivalry does not mean to them what it means to me and you.
So Kate and Chris, as of October 20 or as of October 31st, so this is a little less than a month ago. If we had a 12-team playoff, we would have Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, and this is where it gets skewed because OU has lost 2 games. They wouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss, Penn State wouldn't be there either because they lost 2 games, and Missouri would be there. So who are you? I mean, Louisville to slide into one of those slots.
That's brutal.
It's
a brutal playoffs.
And how long would the playoffs last? Are we going into February with all this?
I think it was right at the season. I think the conference championship is almost going to be over at some point.
Yeah, because I know the Big Ten is talking about going to a divisionless format.
Yeah.
Right now, the top 12 teams in the rankings as of this morning are 10-2 or better. Team 13 is 9-3, 2 losses and up, and they're in.
And a lot of that still, of course, has to do with if we were looking at it for this year, let me ask y'all this: if if Oregon and Washington play a close game, and Florida State loses, and Oregon avenges their loss to Washington earlier in the year, and Washington has 1 loss, and it's a close game, do you keep Washington and Oregon in the top 4?
They want to put Alabama in. I'm just telling you that now.
I know, I get that, and you're probably right. But from a standpoint of really choosing the 4 best teams, because at some point they're going to say, well, Alabama deserves to go because since they played Texas, they've looked great.
Did Ohio State and Michigan not both get into the playoff last year or the year before?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
one of
last
them, we lost to Michigan, and yet we were still top 4. So that Oregon-Washington doesn't matter to me as much as can Florida State beat Louisville.
Well, here's the biggest one, Kate, is that Georgia, Alabama. And if Alabama beats Georgia, they are going to
Then
have
all bets are off.
field
That's a
day
whole, that's a
Alabama
quality
leaping
win that you
everybody.
can't argue with.
Yeah.
If
They're gonna
Alabama
leap
beats
everybody.
Georgia, they're jumping over their number 2. And you could make the case that they should be number 1 if they beat Georgia.
Who?
Listen,
Alabama?
I would never
Alabama.
make that
If you
case.
beat number 1,
That's
you
fine.
should be number 1.
Nah.
I mean, going back to what Chris said too, one of the things is regarding Ryan Day. You said it won't matter next year because of the 12-team playoff if they lose to Michigan or
win.
not. So
Gotta
they can still get in with losing to Michigan. So, is his job seriously on the line, Sapphire? I know you want him fired now, but that all changes next year.
No,
where-
let him finish the bowl game. Does that make everybody feel better?
win. She want him out of here.
I mean, I want him
Yeah.
out of here too, but I mean, you bring up a very good point. For us at Ohio State, it's still always about beating Michigan, but it's about winning national titles too. And you can win a national title, which they almost did last year, without beating Michigan.
And
So I don't know.
And to Chris's point, the money has overshadowed all of that.
Yeah,
It has.
and all that
I mean,
stuff.
basically, we're gonna see these rivalries. Yeah, while they're still gonna be played. Think about it from the pre-BCS era, where you really had to go undefeated, and there was before any real conference championship games. You literally had to go undefeated, where truly every game mattered.
Mhm.
And then you bring in the BCS, which to me, it had its ups and downs. All right. Trivia question: who was the first team to win a title in the BCS era, and who was the quarterback? So these rivalries are going to dissipate quick with the quicks. Yeah, they're still going to play primarily because they're in the same conference, but it's not going to be anything like it was if Michigan rolls in at 11-0 and Ohio State rolls in at 11-0. And you have an undefeated Nebraska team against an undefeated OU team, and you have those two teams that both win those games. Well, guess what? That's it. Those two teams are going to the championship. But with this, it's going to take away all of that, and I don't like that.
And you feel comfortable with Ryan Day still coaching in big games? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I mean, he just can't beat Michigan. He's beat everybody else.
Lloyd Carr got fired because he couldn't beat Ohio State. Cooper got fired because he couldn't beat Michigan. The question circles all the way back to Chris of, does that still matter? Does that matter to the alumni who are footing the bill and the university as a whole?
Lloyd Carr won the championship in '97.
Half of the championship.
Yeah, that was some BS too.
I'm saying this: you get rid of Ryan Day, who replaces him? And that's the question. Like, you guys,
what's your plan B?
The coach, and we talk about a juggernaut of Ohio State. You just can't put anybody in there. Like, you can't just be Texas A&M. I'm gonna grab the Duke coach, which I don't think that's a great pull, but I'm gonna grab the Duke coach and let him be the head coach. You just can't pull anybody. It got to make sense for you to get over there. It made sense when Trussell left and Urban was from Ohio. He was the top tier coach. It got to be a top tier coach that come in there and say, I ain't taking that job. It can't just be any old body to take that job. And that's what you're dealing with. Don't think that receiver coach. What'd you say?
Art Briles.
I mean,
some names they
if
tossing
you
around.
if you want to go down the dark road, Kate, you go down that road, Kate.
No.
Okay, who do you got? If you want Ryan Day out, who do you have? I don't think it'll be the receiver coach. I've been heard he wants to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know.
The OC, what's his name?
Hartline?
Yeah, he want to go to the league.
I'd like Mike Vrabel to leave Tennessee and go back to college, but that won't happen.
Nah, that won't happen.
And Willie, I know Tennessee won the first ever BCS bowl game. I just can't remember if that was Peyton Manning's senior year or if that was the year after he left.
T. Martin.
T. Martin.
Peyton Manning never won a national championship at
Okay.
Tennessee, and he never beat Florida.
Because he left in 97, and then that was 98, right?
Mhm.
Because we
Yep.
didn't have a draft pick, because we didn't have a football team in 98, and I got Tim Couch instead.
It's crazy how we always sometimes and we sometimes always relate a big moment in history to something that caused us a lot of pain.
Yes. Like childbirth. I tend to think about things of, let's see, which one of my kids was I pregnant with when that happened? Oh, Anne Marie, that must have been 1992.
When do you guys want to tackle
The
that?
drive, I was pregnant with Kayla. The fumble, I was pregnant with Carolyn. I could do this all day, Willie.
Yeah.
When do you guys want to tackle the horrible things of that Browns game that I just really didn't understand a lot of things that was going on with
Number
that
one,
team
you're
and the thinking.
number one, your quarterback situation has completely and severely derailed your season.
It really did.
I was okay with DTR. I had faith that we could come back. We hadn't started getting too cute. He was working it.
That's what
It
it
was
was.
going well. And then everything went off the rails. And I didn't understand the cuteness. And I didn't understand a lot of the play calling decisions. Because now you got DTR in concussion protocol. There ain't no way he's coming back.
That
You
was a
got
horrible call,
PJ
by the way.
Walker behind
That was a
center.
horrible call. That was a
And
horrible
who's your
call.
backup to PJ Walker, people?
Joe Flacco.
No, Joe Flacco was inactive this week.
Oh, you mean like Sunday?
Yeah.
I thought
If
you meant
PJ had gotten hurt Sunday, who's going in under center?
who's
Harrison Bryant, right?
Harrison Bryant, the tight end who can't catch a pass.
Mm-hmm.
You do not get cute when your backup is the only quarterback left on your active roster. You run the ball.
Didn't he fumble 2 snaps in the game yesterday?
He fumbled one.
I can't even. We didn't have ball security issues till PJ came in. Like, I do not blame DTR for that. We were still in that game when PJ came in. We had plenty of time. I had very grave concerns about Myles Garrett, and it was clear to me that his teammates on the defense knew something was up with him because JOK stepped up huge yesterday. And I'm like, because he knows Myles will hurt. And he had the game of his life yesterday. I wish he could do that every week. I don't know what happened to him, lit a fire under him or what. Loved the play from that kid.
Jim Schwartz happened to him.
Joe DTR, he made some throws.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, this kid got some throws. He got some, I still think Stefanski didn't put him in position. For some odd reason about that offense, and when you get back me up if you understand this one, they had a view from PJ when PJ was in there. And I think they had max coverage, maybe max protection, maybe they didn't. All I know is they had 3 guys on the route, and they were all deep routes towards going out. And the really good teams, we talk about San Diego offense, we talk about Kansas City offense, when we talk about Philly offense, they have a ton of crossing routes. I've yet to see the Cleveland Browns have crossing routes. And it is mind-boggling to me when you have quarterbacks, if it's a young quarterback, the easier routes you can teach these guys, or the easiest route you can get off on an offense or crossing routes, especially when you don't have top-tier receivers, because you put them in position to make plays, you get them open. Sometimes the receivers can get themselves open. They're just that good. You can put them on an island and do some things or something. But other times you got to create some things to get these guys open. And I'm still in mind. It just blows my mind when I'm watching. It's like no crossing routes, none whatsoever, no slants, not anything across the middle, nothing. The one pass we throw was across the middle yesterday. Anything, any quicks like
well,
that.
you do have a receiver that can run those routes, and Amari Cooper is very good at running those shallow crosses and those and those slants and whatever other name they call for it. Maybe it's the lack of confidence in the abilities on the other side of Amari Cooper that they have an issue with.
It could be, but I'm still. It's just mind-boggling that you can do that on the offense. We just don't do it. Stefanski refused to have that in his offense. I think that's.
But
just
we've been talking about this all year. We've been talking. This is not new.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I know it's not new. I know it's not new, but at some point you got to see it to put better. Like with Deshaun Watson, I'm cool with it. you running that offense. I'm fine with it. Well, as you get lower and lower and lower, you got to say, okay, I got to figure this out real quick, because once you see a blitz coming in, you didn't have anybody to fill that position on that blitz. When I call my offense, I always tell my receivers, my wideout, I say, hey, the checkoff is if you see this backer leave, you're going to fill that spot with him, and you're just going to sit. Like, that is like automatic. And we do not have that.
To you. This is why I call Stefanski a Madden coach, a Madden play calling coach. Go ahead, Kate.
He did that, though, when he was in Minnesota for the Vikings with Kirk Cousins. They did that. He doesn't do that here, and I don't understand it because we're missing guys on the throws, like, right? If he's going this way and the ball's over here, maybe if I had a crossing pattern, there'd actually be one of my players in my jersey where the ball ends up going.
Maybe he's just not seeing the field as a coordinator.
Could be.
Listen, man.
Because crossing routes and levels routes, routes where you have, one guy going 5 and then you have another guy going 10 and maybe somebody doing a deeper dig. Those routes don't work against zone coverage. So maybe he's not seeing the field, because if it's man coverage, those are easy picks and easy natural picks that you won't get flagged for. And if your player gets any type of separation and your quarterback is able to put it between the numbers, then you're going to run for a little while too. Or if you have a quarterback that's mobile like DTR, call some design runs. I mean, are you not? Maybe he's not seeing the field as a coordinator.
Maybe
now
he's
he's blind.
And well, here's the thing. So I'm known for a couple of weeks. This offense is not built. He doesn't build this offense to play from behind.
No, not at all.
It is not built to play from behind, which I hate coordinators that does that. Build offense doesn't play from behind. Like, that is the bad offense. Maybe I'm different. I'm a guy who I'm trying to score every time I get the ball in my hands for somebody. Like, we're gonna try to score every time. That aggressive. And for him not to adjust his offense, to tinker it just a little bit for the players that you have, I think that's my issue with him. Even the run game, he didn't adjust.
All right. Are we still in the hunt? At 7-4, we are still the sixth-ranked team in the AFC. Are we still in the hunt, or is it
my
crazy
injuries
to
list?
think we can still get
my injuries list? The problem with that is you judge a team off this back half of the year, right? Either you're peaking or you're going down. And right now, I don't know if we're going either way, because we got the injuries. I don't know if we're peaking or not.
Right.
Here's the best way to judge it, in my opinion. Look at the quarterback that you're gonna have playing for the next at least 2 weeks, or just look at your entire quarterback room, and compare it to the quarterback room of your opponent. This Sunday, you got the Rams and Matt Stafford. He just threw 4 touchdown passes. After that, you got Trevor Lawrence. After that, you got Justin Fields. After that, you got CJ Stroud. After that, you got I don't know who's.
So Trevor and CJ scare me. The other two don't.
It might be Aaron Rodgers by the 28th of December. Who knows?
Hey, Aaron Rodgers.
And that would be ridiculous and stupid for him to even bother showing up to play the rest of the season.
And then Cincinnati,
I'm worried about Trevor, and I'm worried about the Jaguars, and I'm worried about the Texans. I'm not worried about anybody else on my schedule. We, from a talent standpoint and a defensive talent standpoint, can beat all those other teams on our schedule. It depends on how quickly they get Joe Flacco ready to play while DTR is in concussion protocol.
Stefanski is going to get Flacco annihilated. It's his play calling. It's nonsensical. He's going to get that.
Flacco has enough experience to deal with that. And I think he's smart enough to adjust the play calling to what he sees fit and say, oh, I'm sorry, I messed it up. I don't know the playbook yet. It's just my first week here.
I hope he
played for a Harbaugh. Joe Flacco will be all right.
And Willie, by the by, I agree with you 100%. That was a legit hit they put on DTR.
That was terrible. That was a terrible call.
So here's Willie, can you do for this? Me and my guys, we've been talking about this. I'm conspiracy theorist. I promise you, it is something against the Browns this year. We're
Uh-oh.
not getting a lot of calls. We're not getting a lot of. They be beating up our quarterbacks like crazy this year. I've never seen quarterbacks getting hit like the Browns quarterbacks been hit.
Stefanski, play calling.
Well, not a quarterback getting hit after they throw the ball.
But not getting flagged.
Yeah,
The way other QBs get flagged.
maybe
for things
it's
that we
me
don't
just
get
looking at
flagged
it this
for.
way because I'm in Cleveland, but I'm watching these games closely. I'm like, yo, hold up, it's ridiculous. These guys getting hit like this.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of the games of y'all's games to make a judgment call on that.
It is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into too much, but I've yet to see these certain things that's going on in the game, and the calls are not being made, especially within our quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Our quarterbacks getting lit.
do you think it was better to get Flacco, or would it have been better to get Cam Newton?
I thought the other kid that used to be with the Colts and the Eagles. What's his name was out there? I can't remember his name.
Nick
Not Nick
Foles.
Foles.
Nick Foles, yeah.
Sapphire. That's what
Nick
Sapphire
did
is
really
saying.
well when he filled in Philadelphia.
I'm
He
just
only
saying.
had trouble when it was actually his job to be the starter. He
Yeah,
was
I
fine
think as a
against
back,
Atlanta.
as
Nick
coming
Foles
in
can't
at-
play a 17-game season.
yeah,
So
I
he
think
could
Nick
give you
Foles
2 or
is
3 really
against
good
Tom.
games.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Flacco can put down his foot and say, "No, coach, this isn't working." I mean, maybe he has, based on his experience in the league, that kind of ability to like give Kevin Stefanski pause. Like, I'm so sick of his play calling. I can't even say it enough. And you know how many times we've said "if" tonight, if this, if that, if. I mean, Jim Croce, Cleveland Kate, Jim freaking Croce. They don't know about it. You do. Like,
I do.
Hand the freaking playbook over to ABC.
Oh, if a
something,
picture
call the
paints
100
1,000 words,
person.
girl.
Oh,
If a picture paints 1,000 words.
The sad part about Sunday too was you saw DTR get better with every throw.
yep.
You saw a little bit of confidence. You saw actual good throws. Unfortunately, he was plagued by 5 drops. So right now the Browns have 26 drops, so they're second in the league.
Yeah, the
underneath
drops
Kansas City.
are terrible. What I would like to see happen in the offseason, Rachel, is I would like DTR to go have lunch with Lamar Jackson. Because what Lamar needs to tell DTR to do is you're doing too much. You are trying to do too much. When your team gets behind, you're trying to do too much. And I love the moxie and I love the scramble and I love some of that. You're doing too much, getting yourself hurt.
Because
It
I
was a
can't believe
long,
Amari
hard
dropped
lesson
that
for Lamar
2-point
to learn.
conversion.
DTR needs to learn that lesson.
Yeah,
That
what do you think
2-point
that was all
conversion
about?
that Amari dropped, I'm just still
Yeah.
in disbelief over
What do
that.
you think that was all about?
Elijah Moore had at least 1, if not 2 passes, hit him in the damn hands.
Amari Cooper
I
showed you.
could have caught those.
Amari Cooper
Amari should have had
he,
that 2-point conversion.
He showed you who he is. I've been telling y'all that for years.
That's
He's
right.
been solid and a good player for us, though.
Absolutely.
You know,
He
with
has been
what we
fine for us.
have,
I gotta go. I just want to leave y'all on a note with the fact that this week against the Raiders was the first time since October 22nd that the Kansas City Chiefs even bothered to put up points in the second half. They have had such a lead at halftime that they didn't even need points in the whole second half until this week. So kudos to the Raiders for making them actually have to score in the second half.
That's a party shot, huh?
No, I'm saying it's a good thing.
You've been
They
holding on
didn't
to
have a
all-
big
all
enough
show.
lead.
You've been
They
holding on
had
to
to
that one,
score
haven't
points
you?
in the second half.
You've been holding on to that one all show.
All show.
Well,
Yep.
Hey guys, I want to thank everybody for being here. Great show today. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Sapphire. Thank you, Chris. This is the First Lady of Sports, and you've been listening to her in the huddle, and we are out of here.
That was fantastic.
Deuces.
Bye, Kate. Bye, guys. Good show today. All right, talk to y'all soon.